The stars burned red in the distance as another world died. Ambassador Kira Voss watched from the bridge of her ship as the planet below turned black. The beautiful blue oceans had turned to ash. The green forests were gone. Nothing lived there. Anymore? How many does that make? Asked Captain Thorne, his voice shaking. 17 worlds in this sector alone, Kira replied. Her hands trembled as she held the data pad. The Vex swarm moves faster than we thought possible. The Vex were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen before. They looked like giant insects, but they were smart and cruel. They came in black ships that looked alive. When they found a world with life, they ate everything. Plants, animals, people. Nothing was left behind. Kira belonged to the Alterian Republic. Her people had always believed in peace. They talked instead of fighting. They helped instead of hurting. For 1,000 years this had worked, but the Vex did not want to talk. They only wanted to eat. Ambassador, we are getting reports from the outer colonies, said Communications Officer Vale. The Vex have broken through the Corlon defense line. They are heading for the core worlds. Kira felt her heart sink. The Corlon defense line was supposed to be impossible to break. It had the best weapons and the strongest shields in the galaxy. If the Vex could break through there, nowhere was safe. How long do we have? She asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4, if we are lucky, Vale answered. 3 weeks. Kira thought about her home world of Alteria Prime. She thought about the crystal cities where she grew up. She thought about the floating gardens and the singing crystals. She thought about her family. In 3 weeks, it would all be gone. About the Galactic Council fleet. Captain Thorne asked. Kira shook her head. Half of it is already destroyed. The other half is running scared. The council members are talking about surrender. Surrender? Thorne looked shocked. What good would that do? None, Kira said. The Vex do not take prisoners. They do not make deals. They just eat everything and move on. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The greatest civilization in the galaxy was about to end. Billions of beings from hundreds of worlds would die, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Wait, said Vale, pressing his hand to his earpiece. I am getting something strange. Transmission from the edge of the galaxy. From where? Kira asked. Sector 7G. The dead zone. No one lives out there. Kira frowned. Sector 7G was where they kept the dangerous worlds. Worlds with poison air or deadly weather. Worlds that could kill you just by landing on them. No intelligent life was supposed to exist there. Put it through, she ordered. The main screen flickered and showed a face that made everyone gasp. Creature looked almost like an Alterian, but different. Its skin was darker, and its features were harder. Its eyes were sharp and alert, like a predator. This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the Earth Defense Force, the creature said. We received your distress signal about something called the Vex Swarm. We want to help. Kira stared at the screen. Earth. She had heard that name before. It was one. Of the Deathworlds in Sector 7G, the scientists had studied it years ago and found it full of dangerous life forms. They had detected some kind of intelligent species, but the Council had decided they were too primitive and violent to contact. You are from Earth? Kira asked, finding her voice. That is correct. We understand you are facing an invasion force. We have experience with that sort of thing. Captain Thorne leaned close to Kira. These are the creatures from the Death World, the violent ones. Should we really trust them? Kira looked at the human on the screen. Admiral Kane had scars on his face and arms. His uniform looked like it was made for war. Everything about him screamed danger. But his eyes were serious and honest. Admiral Kane, she said, the Vex swarm is not like anything you have faced before. They have destroyed 17 worlds in just 3 months. They have weapons that can melt through our strongest shields. They have numbers beyond counting. Kane nodded. We have been monitoring your transmissions. We have seen what they can do. That is why we want to help. But why? Kira asked. You do not know us. We have never met before. Why would you risk your lives for strangers? Kane was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because it is the right thing to do. and because if we do not stop them now, they will reach Earth eventually. On Earth, Admiral Kane stood in the command center of Luna Base. The room was full of screens showing star maps and ship movements. Officers moved quickly between stations, preparing for something that had never been done before. Admiral said, "General Roberts, are you sure about this? We have never fought a space war before. Our ships are untested. Our weapons are theoretical." Kane looked at the reports on his desk. Earth had been preparing for this day for decades. Ever since they had learned about other life in the galaxy. They had known that someday they might have to fight for their survival. But they had expected to be defending Earth, not flying across the galaxy to help aliens. "General, every simulation we have run says the Vex will reach Earth within 10 years if they are not stopped. We can fight them here, on our terms, or we can fight them there, with allies." "But Admiral, the Galactic Council has ignored us for 50 years. They think we are too violent, too primitive. Why should we help them now?" Kane turned to look out the window at Earth below. The blue and green world looked peaceful from space, but Kane knew better. Earth had seen more wars than any other world in the galaxy. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years. They'd learned to fight in every environment against every kind of enemy. Because, General, this galaxy needs protectors. Like it or not, we are the only ones who know how to fight. In another part of the base, Dr. Alina Rodriguez was studying the alien transmissions. She was the head of Earth's xenobiology department, and she had been trying to understand alien life for 20 years. "This is fascinating," she said to her assistant, Dr. Park. "Look at these biosignatures from the Vex specimens." Dr. Park leaned over her shoulder to look at the data. "Look almost like insects." "Not almost like insects," Rodriguez said. "Are insects. Giant, spacefaring, intelligent insects. But look at this." She pointed to a section of the data. "They do not just kill their prey, they completely consume it. Every bit of organic matter on a planet. Every plant, every animal, every microbe." "That is impossible," Dr. Park said. "How could they process that much biomass?" "I do not know," Rodriguez admitted. "But if these readings are correct, the Vex do not just conquer worlds. They completely strip them of all life. They turn living planets into dead rocks." Dr. Park was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "How do you fight something like that?" Rodriguez looked at the data again. Somewhere in these numbers was the key to understanding the Vex, and understanding them was the first step to stopping them. "I do not know," she said, "but we better figure it out fast." Back on the Alterian ship, Kira was still talking to Admiral Kane. The human had explained that Earth was sending its entire space fleet to help fight the Vex. Kira did not know whether to be grateful or terrified. "Admiral, I must ask. Ships are you sending?" Kane smiled, and for a moment he looked less like a predator and more like a friend. "All of them, Ambassador. Every ship we have. This is too important for half measures. And how many is that? 2,000 ships, with more being built every day." Kira felt her heart skip a beat. 2,000 ships was more than the entire Galactic Council fleet. How had a primitive world built so many ships? "Admiral, that is. That is incredible. But are your ships capable of fighting the Vex? Their technology is very advanced, Ambassador. Our ships may not be as advanced as yours, but they were built for one purpose: war. And that is something we humans know a lot about." The transmission ended, and Kira stood alone on the bridge. Outside, the stars still burned red as another world died. But for the first time in months, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. Captain James Mitchell stood on the bridge of his ship, the Stormbringer, and watched the chaos ahead. The Alterian system looked like a nightmare. Ships were burning everywhere. Debris floated in space like metal snow. And through it all, the black shapes of Vex bioships moved like hungry sharks. "Captain," said Lieutenant Hayes, "we are detecting massive energy signatures ahead. Multiple alien vessels engaging unknown hostiles." "Those must be our new friends," Mitchell said, "and they're uninvited guests." Mitchell had been chosen to lead the advanced scout fleet because he was good at thinking fast. Earth's first contact with aliens was supposed to be peaceful. Instead, they were flying into the middle of a war. "Sir, We are being scanned, reported Ensign Brooks. Multiple sources. Some of the readings look friendly, others ... double quotes. She paused. Others look very unfriendly. Suddenly, the space around them lit up with weapons fire. Blue energy bolts streaked past the human ships. Red plasma bursts exploded against their shields. Evasive maneuvers, Mitchell shouted. All ships scatter formation. The human ships moved like dancers, twisting and turning through the deadly light show. Their pilots had trained for this moment their entire lives. On Earth, you learned to fly fast, or you did not live long. Captain, we are being hailed, Hayes reported. Multiple frequencies, multiple languages. Put them through all channels. The bridge speakers erupted with noise. Alien voices spoke in languages no human had ever heard. Some sounded scared. Others sounded angry. All of them sounded desperate. Through the chaos, one voice came through clearly. It was female and spoke in broken English. Unknown ships, identify yourselves. This is a restricted combat zone. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Mitchell grabbed the communication device. This is Captain James Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force. We are here to help fight the Vex swarm. Repeat, we are here to help. There was silence on the channel, and the voice came back, sounding confused. Earth, the Death World. That is impossible. Deathworlders do not have space travel. Well, surprise, Mitchell said. We got tired of walking. On the Altarian flagship Harmony's light, Ambassador Kira Voss stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The unknown ships moved like nothing she had ever seen. They were fast, aggressive, and completely unpredictable. Ambassador, said Weapons Officer Glynn, should we continue firing? They claim to be from Earth. Kira remembered her conversation with Admiral Kane. These must be the humans he had promised. But seeing them in action was different from talking. To them on a screen, cease fire on the unknown vessels, she ordered. Open a communication channel. The main screen flickered and showed a human face. Captain Mitchell looked exactly like Admiral Kane's scarred, dangerous and completely calm despite the battle raging around them. Ambassador Kira Voss, I presume? Mitchell said. Admiral Kane sends his regards. We are here to help with your bug problem. Bug problem. Kira almost laughed despite everything. The Vex swarm had destroyed half the galaxy, and this human called it a bug problem. Captain Mitchell, this is not a safe area. The Vex have overwhelmed our defenses. We are barely holding them back. That is why we are here, Mitchell replied. But first, you might want to tell your people to stop shooting at us. It is hard to help when you are dodging friendly fire. Kira quickly sent orders to all Altarian ships to stop targeting the humans. As she did, she watched the human vessels move closer to the battle line. What she saw made her hearts race with fear. The human ships looked like weapons. They had sharp edges and dark colors. They bristled with gun ports and missile tubes. Even their smallest ships looked more dangerous than the largest Altarian battleships. Captain Mitchell, she said, I must warn you, the Vex are not like any enemy you have faced. They are incredibly strong and completely ruthless. Mitchell's scarred face split into a grin that showed his teeth. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator. Ambassador. Where we come from, everything is incredibly strong and completely ruthless. We are used to it. Before Kira could respond, new alarms began blaring. The tactical display showed a massive Vex bioship approaching from the far side of the system. It was 3 times larger than anything they had seen before. Captain, reported Glynn, that vessel is launching attack pods. Thousands of them. Kira watched the swarm of small Vex ships spread out like a deadly cloud. Each pod carried dozens of Vex warriors. If they reached the Altarian ships, it would be a massacre. All ships, prepare for boarding actions, she ordered, but her voice sounded hopeless. The Altarians were not fighters. They were diplomats and scientists and artists. They had no idea how to fight monsters in hand-to-hand combat. Ambassador, Mitchell's voice came through the speakers. We are going to need to board your ship. Our Marines can help defend against the Vex warriors. Your Marines? Kira asked. Our soldiers, the ones who specialize in close combat. Kira, had heard stories about human soldiers from the intelligence reports. They were supposed to be incredibly violent even by Deathworld standards. But right now, she did not care how violent they were. She just wanted to survive. Permission granted, Captain. Docking Bay 7 is clear. Minutes later, Kira stood in Docking Bay 7 watching the human shuttle land. When the doors opened, her breath caught in her throat. The humans who came out looked like mechanical demons. They wore black armor that covered them completely. Their helmets had glowing red eyes. They carried weapons that seemed too big for any living creature to use. The leader removed his helmet, revealing a scarred human face. He was older than Captain Mitchell, with gray hair and cold blue eyes. Ambassador Kira Voss, he said. I am Lieutenant Commander Alex Torres, Earth Marine Corps. We are here to help. Kira tried to speak, but found her voice had disappeared. Up close, the human was even more frightening. He was tall and broad, with muscles that looked like they could crush steel. His armor had scratches and dents from old battles. You seem nervous, Torres said, and his voice was surprisingly gentle. Do not worry. We are the good guys. It is just ... Kira began, then stopped. How could she explain that humans looked like the monsters from Alterian children's stories? Looks scary, Torres finished for her. We get that a lot. But you will be glad we look scary when the Vex get here. As if summoned by his words, explosions began echoing through the ship. Emergency lights flashed red. Over the intercom, panicked voices reported Vex boarding pods attaching to the hull. Speaking of which, Torres said, putting his helmet back. On showtime. The human Marines spread out through the docking bay with practiced efficiency. They moved like they had done this 1,000 times before. They set up defensive positions and checked their weapons with calm professionalism. Kira had never seen anything like it. The Alterians were running around in panic, but the humans were as calm as if they were preparing for lunch. Ambassador Torres said, "You might want to get behind something solid. This is about to get loud." The first Vex warriors came through the hull like acid eating through metal. They were horrible creatures, part insect, part machine, all nightmare. They had 6 legs, 4 arms, and jaws full of razor-sharp teeth. Their black armor gleamed with toxic slime. The Alterian security guards took one look at them and froze in terror. These creatures were everything their species feared most: violent, merciless, and completely alien. But the humans did something that shocked Kira even more than the Vex themselves. They laughed. Contact, Torres shouted. Multiple hostiles. Docking Bay 7. The Marines opened fire with weapons that sounded like thunder. The Vex warriors, who had seemed unstoppable to the Alterians, began falling like wheat before a harvest, but more kept coming. Oh! They poured through the breach in waves, their claws sparking on the metal deck. Their alien shrieks filled the air with horror. Torres grabbed one of the creatures, rode his bare hands, and threw it across the room. Another Marine used his rifle like a club, smashing a Vex warrior into pieces. A third human pulled out a knife that glowed with energy and went to work like he was carving meat. Kira watched in amazement and terror. The humans fought like the Vex themselves, without fear, without mercy, without hesitation. But unlike the Vex, they fought to protect instead of destroy. Behind you? She shouted as a Vex warrior tried to sneak up on Torres. The Marine spun around and caught the creature by the throat. Thanks for the warning, he said. Then snapped the Vex's neck with a sound like breaking branches. The battle lasted only minutes, but it felt like hours. When it was over, the docking bay was full of dead Vex warriors. The humans stood among the bodies, checking their weapons and talking calmly to each other. Torres walked over to Kira, who was still hiding behind a cargo container. Are you hurt? He asked. Kira shook her head. She could not find words to express what she felt. Fear, gratitude, amazement. It all mixed together in her mind. Good, Torres said. Because that was just the warm-up. The real fight has not started. Yet. He was right. Through the hull, Kira could hear more Vex pods attaching to the ship. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. But for the first time since the war began, she was not afraid. The main human fleet arrived like a storm made of metal and fire. Admiral Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of his flagship Indomitable and watched 2,000 human ships spread across the Altarian system. Each vessel was different, built for a specific purpose, but all of them looked deadly. Ambassador Kira Voss watched from her own ship in amazement. She had seen the largest fleets in galactic history, but nothing compared to this. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, like a school of mechanical fish. "Admiral Kane," she said over the communication channel, "your fleet is ... impressive." Kane's scarred face appeared on her screen. "Thank you, Ambassador. We brought everything we could spare, and a few things we probably should not have." "Do you mean?" Kane smiled, that predator smile she was getting used to. "Some of our ships are still experimental. This seemed like a good time to test them." On the Indomitable, Kane turned to his staff officers. The bridge was full of humans who all looked like they had been born for war. Their uniforms were practical, their faces were hard, and their eyes were constantly alert.
"Al Santos,"
Kane said to a woman with short black hair and arms covered in scars, "Brief our alien allies on the Deathworld doctrine." Colonel Maria Santos nodded and activated the main display. The screen showed Earth from space, but not the peaceful blue world that most species saw. This image highlighted the dangerous parts, the volcanoes, the hurricanes, the frozen wastelands, and the burning deserts. Ambassador Kira Santos began, "Before we start fighting together, you need to understand how humans think about war." Kira appeared on the screen looking nervous but curious. Behind her, other Altarian officers gathered to listen. "Your species evolved on a peaceful world," Santos continued. "Plenty of food, stable weather, no major predators. You developed intelligence to build and create and explore." The display changed to show Earth's history. Images of humans fighting. Massive predators, surviving ice ages, and battling natural disasters filled the screen. Humans evolved on what we call a death world. Everything on Earth tried to kill us. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the bacteria. To survive, we had to become the most dangerous thing on our planet. Kira watched the images with growing horror. She saw humans fighting creatures 10 times their size. She saw them surviving in environments that would kill an Altarian in minutes. "This is your world?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "This is our world," Santos confirmed. "And this is why we fight the way we do." The display showed human military tactics. Soldiers moving through poisonous swamps. Ships designed to operate in gas giant atmospheres. Weapons that could function in the vacuum of space or the crushing depths of an ocean. "The Death World doctrine is simple," Santos explained. "Assume everything will go wrong. Plan for the worst possible situation. Always have a backup plan. And when in doubt, use more violence." One of the Altarian officers raised his hand. "Excuse me, Colonel. Did you say use more violence?" Santos nodded. "Violence is a tool like any other. The key is using the right amount at the right time.
"Al."
Too little, and you lose. Too much, and you become the monster you are fighting against." "But violence is always wrong," the officer protested. "There must be a peaceful solution to every problem." Santos was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Tell that to the 17 worlds the Vex have eaten." Altarian officer had no answer for that. Meanwhile, Dr. Alina Rodriguez was in the science lab, studying the Vex specimens that Lieutenant Commander Torres had captured. She had been working for 3 days straight, trying to understand how the creatures thought and fought. "Dr. Park," she called to her assistant, "look at these neural patterns." Dr. Park hurried over to the display. "What am I looking at, Vex?" "Brain scans," Rodriguez said. "Notice anything familiar?" Dr. Park studied the images. Slowly, her eyes widened. "They look like Earth insects, specifically like army ants." "Exactly," Rodriguez said. "The Vex operate on a hive mind principle, just like ants or bees. But look at this." She highlighted a section of the brain scan to have individual intelligence. 2. Each warrior can think for itself, but they are also connected to the group. That is terrifying. Park said. Individual intelligence plus hive coordination. It gets worse, Rodriguez continued. She brought up another display showing Vex communication patterns. They learn from every battle. When one Vex dies, its memories go back to the hive. They adapt to new enemies incredibly fast.
Bark sat down.
Heavily, no wonder the Galactic Council could not stop them. Every time they tried a new tactic, the Vex learned from it and developed a counter. But, Rodriguez said, holding up one finger, they have never fought humans before. They have no data on us, no idea how we think or fight. But that gives us an advantage, maybe? For a while, we need to use it before they figure us out. Rodriguez activated her communication device. Admiral Kane, this is Dr. Rodriguez. I need to speak with you about the Vex Queen ships. Captain Lisa Park was preparing for a mission that would have terrified most aliens. She was going to fly directly into Vex-controlled space to gather intelligence. Her ship was called Ghost Protocol, and it was one of the experimental vessels Admiral Kane had mentioned. It was built using technology that most aliens did not even know was possible. Captain said her navigator, Lieutenant Cross, our stealth systems are online. The Vex should not be able to detect us, Janot Park repeated. I love those words. They make everything more exciting. Park's crew was small, but experienced. Each of them had volunteered for missions that others called suicide runs. They were the kind of humans who got bored unless someone was shooting at them. Take us in, Park ordered, nice and slow. Let us see what the bugs are really up to. The Ghost Protocol slipped through space like a shadow. Stealth technology made it invisible to almost every known sensor. But the Vex were not using known technology. As they moved deeper into Vex territory, the crew saw things that made them sick. Dead worlds floating in space like gray stones. Vex bioships growing new warriors from harvested organic matter. Massive construction projects that turned entire moons into weapons. Captain, whispered Lieutenant Cross, look at that. Park followed his gaze and felt her blood turn cold. In the distance, a structure the size of a small planet was taking shape. It was black and organic, covered in what looked like veins and arteries. What is that thing? Asked Ensign Blake from the sensor station. I do not know, Park said, but I bet it is not good news for us. As they watched, smaller Vex ships brought materials to the giant structure. Chunks of metal, pieces of destroyed ships, and worst of all, organic matter from dead worlds. They are building something, Cross said. Something big. Get us closer, Park ordered. I want detailed scans of that thing, Captain, if we get much closer, they might detect us. Then we better be quick about it. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Kane was meeting with his senior officers and the Allied alien commanders. The briefing room was full of tension as both sides tried to understand each other. The situation is worse than we thought, Kane began. Captain Park's reconnaissance mission has confirmed our worst fears. The Vex are not just attacking random targets. They have a plan. The main display showed Park's sensor data. The massive Vex construction project filled the screen like a nightmare made real. This structure appears to be some kind of superweapon. Kane continued. If they complete it, they could destroy entire star systems at once. Ambassador Kira felt her hearts racing. How long do we have? According to our analysis, maybe 2 weeks, Kane said. After that, they could target any world in the galaxy. But what can we do? Asked an Alterian general. Our combined fleets are powerful, but that thing is protected by thousands of Vex ships. Kane turned to Colonel Santos. Colonel, explain our options. Santos stepped forward. We have 3 choices. We can run away and hope they do not catch us. We can try to negotiate and hope they decide not to eat us. We can attack before they finish building their superweapon. Attack. The Alterian general looked shocked. That would be suicide. Even with your ships, we do not have enough firepower. Maybe, Santos said. But running away is definitely suicide. Just slower. Kane nodded. The colonel is right. If we run, they will hunt us down one by one. If we try to negotiate, they will eat us while we are talking. Our only chance is to hit them hard and fast before they expect it. But Admiral Kira said, Even if we could destroy their construction project, they have ships spread across dozens of systems. We cannot fight them all. Kane's scarred face split into that terrible smile. Ambassador, you are thinking like someone who fights to win. We do not fight to win. We fight to survive. And sometimes surviving means doing things that seem impossible. Dr. Rodriguez's voice came through the intercom. Admiral, I have completed my analysis of the Vex specimens. I need to brief you on what I found. Go ahead, Doctor. The Vex Queen ships are not just command vessels, Rodriguez said. They are living creatures. Ancient beings that have been corrupted by millennia of consuming worlds. Each queen controls thousands of smaller ships through bioneural links. Kane frowned. What does that mean for us? It means if we can disrupt those links, we can turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Cut off the queen, and the entire swarm becomes confused and disorganized. How do we disrupt the links? Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. Someone would have to get inside a queen ship and attack its neural core directly. The briefing room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Getting inside a Vex queen ship would be almost impossible. Getting out alive would be completely impossible, Dr. Kane said quietly. How big are these queen ships? The largest one we have detected is over 50 kilometers long. It would be like trying to invade a city that is also a living creature that wants to eat you. Kane nodded. Slowly. Colonel Santos, start planning an assault on the Vex superweapon. Dr. Rodriguez. Keep working on ways to disrupt their bioneural links. Captain Park, I want continuous reconnaissance of their positions. Yes, sir, they all replied. As the meeting broke up, Kira approached Admiral Kane. Admiral, your people seem very calm about attempting the impossible. Kane looked at her with those cold predator eyes. Ambassador, impossible is just another word for something no one has tried. Yet, and we humans have a lot of experience with trying things that should not work. Why? She asked. Why risk everything for people you barely know? Kane was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, because if we do not try, everyone dies, including us. And because sometimes doing the right thing is more important than doing the safe thing. Kira watched him walk away and realized something that both frightened and comforted her. The humans were not just willing to fight the impossible fight. They were looking forward to it. Asterisk, 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 the massive Vex Queen ship called Devourer Prime emerged. From hyperspace, like a living nightmare. It was 50 kilometers of black, organic horror, covered in pulsing veins and breathing holes. Smaller bioships swarmed around it like deadly children protecting their mother. Admiral. Kane watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as his sensors tried to measure the monster. The numbers were terrifying. The Queen ship was larger than most space stations and armed with weapons that could melt planets. Admiral reported Communications Officer Vale. We are receiving distress signals from Nexus Prime. The planet's defense grid is under heavy attack. Kane looked at the tactical display. Nexus Prime was the capital world of the Galactic Council. 12 billion beings from dozens of species lived there. If it fell, the galaxy would lose its government, its culture, and its hope. How long can they hold? Kane asked. Maybe 6 hours, Vale replied. The Vex are using some kind of bioweapon that dissolves our shields. Nothing can stop it. Kane turned to his fleet commanders. This is it. Everything we have been preparing for comes down to the next few hours. We either stop them here, or we lose everything. On the experimental stealth, Ship Ghost Protocol, Commander Rachel Foster was preparing for the most dangerous mission in human history. Her job was to penetrate the Devourer Prime and plant explosives in its neural core. Commander, said her pilot, Lieutenant Nash, the bioarmor on that thing is 3 meters thick. Our cutting tools might not be enough. Foster checked her equipment. One more time. She carried explosives, hacking devices, and weapons that most aliens had never seen. But she knew that getting inside the Queen ship was only half the battle. Getting out alive would be nearly impossible. We will figure it out when we get there, she said. We always do. Her crew was small, but deadly. Each person had volunteered for a mission that everyone knew was probably suicide. but they were humans. From Earth, and humans had been volunteering for impossible missions for thousands of years. "Commander," said Dr. Rodriguez over the intercom, "I have uploaded everything we know about Vex bioneural networks to your computer. The neural core should be at the center of the ship, but be careful. The Queen ship is alive. It will know you are inside." "Understood, Doctor. We will try not to give it indigestion." Meanwhile, on the surface of Nexus Prime, General David Cross was coordinating the ground defense. The planet's cities were beautiful works of art, with crystal spires and floating gardens. But beauty meant nothing to the Vex. The first wave of Vex drop pods rained down like black meteors. Pods split open to release dozens of warrior forms that immediately began attacking everything in sight. "All units engage at will," Cross shouted into his radio. "Do not let them establish a foothold." Human Marines fought alongside alien defenders who had never seen real combat. The aliens were brave, but they moved too slowly and thought too much. The humans moved like lightning and thought while they fought. Sergeant D. Williams grabbed an alien soldier who was frozen in terror. "Hey, blue guy, stop staring and start shooting." The alien, a Corlin named Vex, snapped out of his shock and raised his weapon. "But they are so horrible," he said. "They are ugly," Williams agreed, firing his rifle at a charging Vex warrior. "But ugly dies just like everything else, when you shoot it enough." In the space battle above, the human fleet was learning that fighting the Vex was like fighting a living organism. The bioships moved like parts of a single creature, coordinating their attacks with perfect precision. "Admiral," reported Weapons Officer Gray, "their bioweapons are adapting to our shields. Every shot is more effective than the last." Kane watched his ships take damage that should have been impossible. The Vex weapons seemed to learn from each impact, becoming more deadly with every attack. "Then we do not give them time to learn," Kane decided. "All ships, maximum acceleration. We are going in close where their big guns cannot target us." Human fleet charged toward the Vex formation like a pack of wolves attacking a giant. They used their superior speed and maneuverability to get inside the enemy's weapon range. "Sir," reported Captain Mitchell from the Stormbringer, "we are taking heavy casualties. The bioships are stronger than we expected." "Are our alien allies doing?" Kane asked. "The Alterians are trying their best, but they are not built for this kind of fighting. Half their ships have already withdrawn." Kane understood. The aliens were brave, but they had never faced an enemy that wanted to completely destroy them. Humans had been facing enemies like that for their entire history. On the Ghost Protocol, Commander Foster was approaching the Devourer Prime's hull. Up close, the Queen ship was even more terrifying. Its surface writhed like living skin, and bioweapons tracked their movement like eyes. "There," said Lieutenant Nash, pointing to a breathing hole in the ship's side. "We can get in through that opening, are you sure?" Foster asked. "It looks like it might try to eat us." "Only one way to find out." The stealth ship slipped into the breathing hole like a parasite entering a host. Inside, the walls pulsed with alien life. The air was thick and humid, like being inside a giant lung. "This is definitely the most disgusting place I have ever been," said explosives expert Rodriguez. "And I grew up in a sewer processing plant." Foster led her team through organic corridors that twisted and branched like blood vessels. Everything was alive, and everything was watching them. "Commander," whispered Nash, "I think the ship knows we are here." As if responding to his words, the walls around them began to close. Biosecurity systems activated, releasing creatures that looked like living nightmares. "Run," Foster shouted. The team sprinted through the twisting passages as monsters pursued them. Behind them, the Queen ship's immune system was awakening. Soon, every creature on the ship would be hunting them. Back on Nexus Prime, the battle was getting worse. Vex warriors poured from their drop pods in endless waves. They were stronger and faster than the defenders, and they felt no fear. "General," Cross watched his defense lines crumble. "All units fall back to secondary positions. Use the buildings for cover." The human Marines retreated through the alien city using every piece of cover they could find. But the Vex followed them like a black tide of death. "General," reported Sergeant Williams, "we are running out of ammunition. These things just keep coming." Cross looked at the tactical display. More Vex drop pods were landing every minute. Soon, they would be completely overwhelmed. "Sir," said his aide, Lieutenant Park, "maybe we should consider evacuation." Cross shook his head. "If we lose this planet, we lose the war. We hold the line here, no matter what." "But sir, how do we—" "Stop them!" Cross smiled grimly. "We do what humans do best. We improvise." He activated his radio and spoke to all human units. "All Marines, this is General Cross. I want every building in Sector 7 rigged with explosives. They're going to bring the whole district down on their heads." "Sir," Park said, "that will destroy half the capital city. Better a damaged city than a dead galaxy." In space, Admiral Kane was watching his fleet slowly lose the battle. The Vex bioships were too strong and too numerous. Even with their superior tactics, the humans could not overcome the sheer size of the enemy force. Admiral reported his tactical officer, "We have lost 30% of our ships. The Altarians have lost 50% of theirs." Kane nodded. Grimly, he had known this would be costly. But they had to buy time for Foster's mission to succeed. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Prepare for final assault. We are going to ram the Queen ship." His officers stared at him in shock. "Sir," said his first officer, "that would be suicide." "Maybe," Kane said. "But if Foster's team can disable the neural core while we keep the Queen ship distracted, it might work." On the communications channel, Captain Mitchell's voice crackled through. "Admiral, if we are going to do something crazy, we better do it fast. The Vex are massing for a final push." Inside the Devourer Prime, Foster's team had reached the ship's center. The neural core was a massive chamber filled with pulsing organic computers and bioneural networks that looked like giant brains. "This is it," Foster said. "Dr. Rodriguez, start uploading the virus. Everyone else prepare the explosives." They worked. The chamber began to shake. Outside, Admiral Kane's fleet was attacking the Queen ship with everything they had. "Commander," said Nash, "we have company." The chamber's entrances were filling with Vex biosecurity creatures. They looked like giant spiders made of metal and flesh, and they were all looking at the human team. "How long do you need?" Foster asked Dr. Rodriguez. 5 more minutes." Foster looked at the approaching monsters and calculated the odds. Minutes was a very long time when things with too many legs and sharp teeth were trying to kill you. "Nash, Rodriguez, cover the exits," she ordered. "We hold them here until the virus uploads." The team spread out around the neural core as the first wave of biosecurity creatures attacked. The battle was fierce and desperate, with both sides fighting for the future of the galaxy. 3 minutes, shouted Dr. Rodriguez. Foster's rifle ran out of ammunition. She drew her combat knife and prepared to fight the monsters hand to hand. Around her, her team was doing the same. 2 minutes. Nash went down under a pile of attacking creatures. Rodriguez was bleeding from a dozen wounds, but kept working on her computer. 1 minute. Forster was the only one left standing. She was surrounded by biosecurity creatures, and her knife was broken. But she kept fighting because that was what humans did. Load complete. Dr. Rodriguez shouted just before a creature's claw found her. The neural core began to pulse with chaotic light as the virus spread through the Queen ship's bioneural network. The great creature's mind was being torn apart from the inside. Foster smiled as the creatures closed in around her. They had done it. They had saved the galaxy. The Devourer Prime began to convulse in space as its neural systems failed. The smaller bioships around it became confused and disorganized. Some attacked each other. Others simply stopped moving. Admiral Kane watched from his bridge as the tide of battle turned. All ships pressed the attack. The Queen ship is disabled. Victory came at a cost. Foster's team was trapped inside the dying Queen ship. And on Nexus Prime, General Cross's Marines were still fighting against impossible odds. The war was far from over. Asterisk, 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 inside the dying Devourer Prime, Commander Rachel. Foster struggled to her feet. The Queen ship's corridors were collapsing around her as the massive creature's body began to shut down. The virus had worked, but now she was trapped inside 50 kilometers of dying alien flesh. Nash, she called out, searching through the wreckage of the neural chamber. Rodriguez. She found Dr. Rodriguez first, badly wounded but still alive. The scientist was clutching her computer tablet, making sure the virus upload was complete. Commander Rodriguez whispered, "The cascade is spreading. The Queen ship's neural network is completely disrupted. Can you walk?" Foster asked, helping her to her feet. "I can try." They found Nash pinned under a fallen biocomputer, unconscious but breathing. Foster used her remaining explosives to free him. Knowing that the noise would attract whatever biosecurity creatures were still functioning, "We need to get out of here," she said, slinging Nash over her shoulder. "This whole ship is going to tear itself apart." The three humans stumbled through corridors that writhed like a dying snake. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of the Queen ship destroying itself from the inside. In space, Admiral Kane watched the Devourer Prime's death throes with grim satisfaction. The massive bioship was firing randomly at its own escorts, its weapon systems completely out of control. Admiral reported his tactical officer, "The Vex fleet is in complete chaos. Ships are attacking each other or just drifting without purpose." Kane nodded. "Foster's team did it. Now we finish the job. All ships target the confused bioships. Do not let any of them escape." The human fleet pressed their attack with renewed energy. The Vex ships, cut off from their Queen's guidance, fought like wild animals instead of a coordinated force. Made them dangerous but predictable on Nexus Prime's surface. General David Cross felt the ground shake beneath his feet. His explosives teams had just brought down 3 city blocks on top of an advancing Vex army. "Sir," reported Sergeant Williams, "that slowed them down, but more are coming. We are running out of buildings to drop on them." Cross looked at his tactical display. The Vex ground forces were still pouring from their drop pods, but something had changed. They were moving in random patterns instead of coordinated attacks. "They have lost their central command," Cross realized. "The space battle must be going our way." Even without coordination, the Vex warriors were still deadly. They fought with the fury of wounded animals, making them more dangerous than ever. "Units, form defensive squares," Cross ordered. "Do not let them surround you." The human marines and their alien allies formed tight defensive formations. The Altarians had learned to fight during the battle, and now they moved with the confidence of real soldiers. "General," said an Altarian officer named Blake. "What do we do now?" Cross smiled grimly. "Now we do what humans do best. We hunt them down one by one." Inside the Devourer Prime, Foster's team had found an escape route. One of the Queen ship's breathing holes was large enough for their emergency shuttle. If they could reach it before the ship's death spasms crushed them, Rodriguez pointed to a passage that led upward. "That should take us to the outer hull." They climbed through organic tunnels that contracted and expanded like a giant throat trying to swallow them. Nash had regained consciousness but could barely walk. "Commander," he gasped, "leave me behind. You can move faster without me." "Not happening," Foster replied. "We came in together. We leave together." Behind them, they could hear the sounds of the ship's biosystems failing. Acidic fluids leaked from the walls. Emergency biolights flickered and died. The air grew thick and poisonous. "Almost there," Rodriguez said, checking her scanner. "Just another 100 meters." They emerged into a chamber filled with toxic gas. Their environmental suits were the only thing keeping them alive. Through the chamber's far wall, they could see stars. "Nash, can you pilot the shuttle?" Foster asked. "With my eyes closed," Nash replied. Though his hands were shaking, they reached their hidden shuttle just as the chamber began to collapse. Foster sealed the hatch as organic debris rained down around them. "Go, go, go," she shouted. Nash fired the engines and shot them out of the dying Queen ship. Behind them, the Devourer Prime was tearing itself apart. Massive chunks of bioarmor flew off into space. Internal explosions lit up the creature's body like a deadly fireworks show. In the space battle, Admiral Kane's fleet was winning. With their Queen ship dead, The Vex bioships were easy targets. One by one, they fell to human weapons. "Admiral," reported Captain Mitchell from the Stormbringer, "we are detecting escape pods from the Queen ship. Should we destroy them?" Kane was about to give the order when his communications officer interrupted. "Sir, one of those pods is broadcasting a human emergency signal. Foster's team," Kane realized. "All ships cease fire on the escape pods. Recovery team, prepare for immediate pickup." Dr. Elena Rodriguez was monitoring the battle from the science station. She'd been studying the Vex bioneural networks for weeks, and now she was watching them collapse in real time. "Admiral," she reported, "the Cascade virus is spreading to other Queen ships throughout the galaxy. The entire Vex command structure is falling apart." Kane felt a moment of hope. "How many Queen ships are affected?" "All of them," Rodriguez replied with wonder in her voice. "The virus uploaded into Devourer Prime is spreading through their bioneural network like a disease. Every Queen ship in the galaxy is being affected." On the bridge of the Alterian flagship Harmony's Light, Ambassador Kira Voss watched the impossible happen. The Vex swarm, which had seemed unstoppable just hours before, was destroying itself. "Ambassador," said her communications officer, "we are receiving reports from across the galaxy. Vex fleets are going silent. Some are attacking each other. Others are just dying." Kira felt tears in her eyes. For the first time in months, she dared to hope that her people might survive. "Open a channel to Admiral Kane," she ordered. Kane's scarred face appeared on her screen, but now he looked tired instead of dangerous. "Admiral," she said, "how did you know this would work?" Kane was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "We did not know, we just hoped." "Sometimes that is all you can do." On Nexus Prime, the remaining Vex warriors were becoming easier to defeat. Without their Queen's guidance, they fought like individual predators instead of a coordinated army. General Cross led a final assault against the largest group of surviving Vex. Human Marines and alien soldiers fought side by side using tactics that both species had learned during the battle. "Push forward!" Cross shouted. "Do not give them time to regroup!" The battle lasted 3 more hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. One by one, the Vex warriors fell. When the last one was destroyed, a cheer went up from the surviving defenders. "Sir," reported Sergeant Williams, "the city is secure. Vex forces have been eliminated." Cross looked around at the damage. Half of Nexus Prime's capital was in ruins. Thousands of soldiers from a dozen species lay dead in the streets. But the planet was free. "Send a message to Admiral Kane," Cross ordered. "Tell him the ground war is over." In space, the human fleet was mopping up the last Vex bioships. Foster's team had been recovered and was receiving medical treatment. The immediate threat was over. Admiral Kane stood on his bridge and looked out at the stars. In the distance, the wreckage of Devourer Prime drifted like a dead mountain. The debris of 1,000 ships marked the site of humanity's first galactic battle. Admiral said his communications officer, "We are receiving messages from across the galaxy. The Vex swarm is collapsing everywhere. Conquered worlds are being liberated. The war is over." Kane nodded slowly. "Signal the fleet. Prepare for the journey home." "Sir," said his tactical officer, "what about the Galactic Council? They will want to thank us. Maybe offer us membership." Kane thought about Earth, the blue world that had seemed so small and unimportant to the galaxy. Now that same world had saved every other world in known space. Send a message to the Council, he decided. Tell them Earth accepts their gratitude. And tell them that if they ever need help again, they know where to find us. Ambassador Kira approached him on the communication channel one last time. "Admiral Kane," she said, "how can we ever repay you? You have saved the entire galaxy." Kane's scarred face split into that predator smile one last time. But now, Kira realized it was not the smile of a monster. It was the smile of a protector. "Ambassador," he said, "just remember that the galaxy is full of dangerous things. Now you know that Earth is the most dangerous thing of all. But we are dangerous to the right people for the right reasons." As the human fleet began its journey home, Kane received one final report from Dr. Rodriguez. "Abrigas," she said, "I have been analyzing the Vex remains. I think I know where they came from originally. Where? The edge of the galaxy. The dark space between galaxies. And I think there might be more of them out there." Kane looked out at the stars and nodded. The galaxy was safe for now, but space was vast and full of unknowns. Somewhere out there, other threats were waiting. But now the galaxy had protectors. The Deathworlders from Earth stood ready to face whatever nightmares the universe might send. The war was over, but the watch had just begun. The silver ship moved quietly through the dark space between stars. Its hull was smooth and curved, built for peace and exploration, not war. Inside the ship called Harmony's Edge, blue lights glowed softly in the corridors where the crew worked. Chief Science Officer Crintel stood before the main display screen, her tall, thin form bent over the control panel. Her large eyes, adapted for seeing in low light, watched the star charts with careful attention. Her species, the Valthari, had been exploring space for thousands of years, but they had never found anything that wanted to hurt them. "Captain Velmore, we are detecting something unusual," Crintel said in her soft voice. She touched the screen with her long, delicate fingers. "There is a signal coming from an unknown system." Captain Velmore walked over from his command chair. He was older than Crintel, with gray markings on his pale blue skin that showed his age and wisdom. Like all Velthari, he had never held a weapon or thought about violence. His people had evolved on a peaceful world where the biggest danger was getting lost in a flower garden. "What kind of signal?" he asked, looking at the strange patterns on the screen. "It appears to be a distress beacon," Crintel replied, "but the technology is very basic, almost primitive. However, the mathematical patterns are quite clever. Someone is trying very hard to make contact." Young engineer Pipnox looked up from his workstation. His eyes were bright with curiosity. "Should we investigate?" "The signal is coming from a system that is not in our star charts." Medical Officer Torvin, who was checking the ship's health systems, paused in his work. "It could be dangerous to approach an unknown system. What if whoever sent the signal is hostile?" Captain Velmore thought about this. In all their years of space travel, the Valteri had never met a truly hostile species. Some were unfriendly, and others were just different, but none had ever tried to harm them. The idea that someone might want to hurt others was almost impossible for them to understand. "We are explorers," the captain said finally. "If someone needs help, we should at least listen to their message." Crintel worked with the ship's computers to decode the strange signal. The language was unknown, but the mathematical parts were clear enough. The message included star charts, pictures of a blue and green planet, and what looked like technical specifications for basic space travel. "Fascinating," she whispered. "They call their world Earth and themselves humans. Technology is hundreds of years behind ours, but they have managed to send this signal across incredible distances." Pipnox joined her at the science station. "Look at these images of their planet. It looks so violent. Storms, earthquakes, volcanoes. How do they survive in such a dangerous place?" "Perhaps that is why they are asking for help," Torvin suggested. "Their world might be dying." Captain Velmore made his decision. "Set course for their system. We will investigate this Earth and see if we can help these humans." The Harmony's Edge turned toward the unknown system, its engines humming quietly. The journey would take several days, even with their advanced faster-than-light travel. During this time, the crew studied the human signal more carefully. "He seemed to be quite intelligent," Crintel reported to the captain. Technology? They have figured out complex mathematics and basic physics. Their signal shows they understand things like gravity waves and quantum mechanics. But look at these images from their planet, Pipnock said, pointing to pictures that came with the signal. They show creatures that hunt and kill each other. The humans themselves seem to engage in something called war. What is war, Captain? Velmore had to think about this question. The Velthari language had no word for war because they had never experienced it. I believe it means they fight each other, but that makes no sense. Why would anyone want to hurt their own kind? On the third day of their journey, as they approached the edge of the system where Earth was located, their ship's alarms suddenly began to sound. Red lights flashed throughout the corridors, something that had never happened before on a Velthari. Exploration ship. Captain, Crintel called out, her voice filled with fear. Multiple ships are approaching at high speed. They're not answering our peaceful greetings. The main screen showed 3 dark, angular ships that looked nothing like the smooth, curved vessels the Velthari were used to. These ships had sharp edges and were covered in what looked like weapons. They were much larger than the Harmonies. Edgen moved with aggressive purpose. "This is Captain Velmore of the Velthari exploration vessel, Harmony's Edge," the captain broadcast on all frequencies. "Come in peace. We are scientific explorers with no weapons or hostile intentions." Response came in a harsh, growling language that their computers struggled to translate. When the meaning finally appeared on their screens, the crew felt terror for the first time in their lives. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You are now prisoners of the Drachmer Horde. Resistance will result in pain. What is pain? Whispered Pip-NOX. Before anyone could answer. The dark ships fired some kind of energy weapon that wrapped around the Harmony's edge like a net. The ship's systems began to shut down one by one, and the crew found they could not control their vessel anymore. "They are pulling us into their largest ship," Torvin reported, his voice shaking. "What do we do, Captain?" Captain Velmore looked around at his crew. They were all staring at him with wide, frightened eyes. None of them had ever faced danger before. Their entire civilization was built on the idea that all intelligent life was basically peaceful and reasonable. "Try to send a message," he ordered Crintel. "Tell someone what is happening to us." Crintel's hands moved quickly over her controls, but most of the ship's systems were no longer responding. "I can only access the emergency beacon system. I can send one short message before they completely shut us down." "Send it to the humans," Captain Velmore decided. "They are the closest. Maybe they can warn others about these Drachmar." With her last few seconds of control, Crintel composed a simple message and aimed it toward the planet called Earth. She included their location, a warning about the Drachmer, and a desperate plea for help. As she sent the signal, she wondered if the primitive humans would even be able to understand it, much less do anything about it. The Harmony's Edge was pulled into the belly of the massive Drachmer ship. The crew huddled together as they heard strange sounds outside their hull, metal cutting through metal, harsh voices speaking in the growling Drachmer language. "What will happen to us?" Pipnox asked. Nobody had an answer. For the first time in their species' history, the Velthari were about to learn what it meant to be prey. 3 days had passed since the Velthari crew was captured. Captain Velmore sat in a cold metal cell, his blue skin covered with bruises. The Drachmer had tried to make him talk about Galactic Federation defenses, but he knew nothing useful. The Velthari were explorers, not soldiers. In the cell next to him, Crintel was trying to comfort young Pipnox, who had been crying since their capture. Torvin was in the medical bay, forced to treat injured Drachmer warriors. The prison ship was filled with creatures from dozens of different worlds, all captured and enslaved. "I should never have sent that message to the humans," Crintel whispered to the captain through the bars. "They're too primitive to help us. Now they might be in danger too." "You did the right thing, Captain," Velmore replied weakly. "Someone needed to know about the Drachmer threat?" Warlord Grixcon, the massive leader of this Drachmer fleet, walked past their cells. His dark armor was covered with the symbols of conquered worlds. His red eyes glowed with cruel pleasure as he looked at his prisoners. "Your pathetic federation will fall soon," he growled in broken galactic standard. "We have ships coming from every direction. Your peaceful ways make you weak." On the bridge of the Drachmer mothership, alarms suddenly began to sound. Nervous Drachmer officer ran to Grixcon. "Sir, our long-range sensors are detecting unknown ships approaching fast." "Very fast." "How many?" Grixcon demanded. 12 ships, sir. They are small compared to ours, but they are moving at speeds we have never seen before." Grixcon laughed. 12 ships? Send a message telling them to surrender or die." The response came back in a language the Drachmer computers had never heard before. When it was finally translated, the bridge grew quiet. "This is Admiral Rebecca Torres of the United Earth's Defense Fleet. You have attacked and captured peaceful explorers. Release them immediately or face the consequences." "Earth," Grixcon roared with laughter. "The primitive world that barely has space travel? They dare to threaten us." But his laughter stopped when the human ships dropped out of hyperspace, right? In front of his fleet, the lead ship, called Indomitable, was much smaller than his mothership, but something about it made him nervous. It looked like it was built for war, with thick armor and weapons pointing in every direction. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "they are not following any known military formation. Their ships are spread out in a pattern that makes no tactical sense." "Then they are fools," Grixcon said. "Destroy them." The Drachmar fleet opened fire with their plasma cannons. Any normal ship would have been destroyed instantly. But the human ships did something impossible. They flew directly into the weapons fire, taking hits that should have blown them apart. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Torres watched the tactical display with cold eyes. She was a tall woman with gray hair and scars on her face from many battles. Her crew called her Iron Maiden because nothing seemed to break her spirit. "Damage report," she called out. "Hull breach on Deck 7, but the bulkheads are holding," replied her first officer, Commander Jake Miller. "These alien weapons are powerful, but they fire slowly." "Just like we thought," Torres said. "Captain Webb, begin your attack run." The assault carrier Ragnarok, Captain Marcus Webb smiled grimly. His ship was loaded with small fighters and armored soldiers. While other species built their military ships for long-range combat, humans preferred to get close and personal. "All fighters, launch now," Webb ordered.
Nice.
"Remember, these aliens have never fought anyone crazy enough to do what we're about to do." 60 human fighters screamed out of the Ragnarok's launch bays. They were piloted by men and women who had trained in Earth's dangerous skies, where a single mistake meant death. To them, space combat was actually easier than flying through a thunderstorm back home. The Drachmer pilots watched in shock as the human fighters charged straight at their massive battleships. No sane pilot would try to attack a capital ship. With a tiny fighter, the humans, the Drachmer were learning, had a very different idea of what was sane. Fighter pilot Lieutenant Amy Chen dove her ship between two Drachmer destroyers, firing at their weapon ports. Her fighter was hit 3 times, but she kept flying. On any other world, a pilot would retreat after taking damage. On Earth, pilots were taught to keep fighting until their ship exploded. "These humans are insane," one Drachmer captain reported to Grixcon. "They attack without fear. Their ships should be destroyed, but they keep coming." Meanwhile, Commander Lisa Park led her stealth frigates around the back of the Drachmer fleet. Her ships were designed to be invisible until it was too late. While the enemy was focused on the frontal attack, Park's ships were targeting their engines and shields. Inside the Drachmer prison ship, the captured aliens pressed against their cell walls, watching the battle through small windows. They had never seen anything like human warfare. "Look how their ships move," whispered Crintel. "They spin and roll like they are dancing. But every movement has a purpose." Captain Velmore watched a human fighter ram itself into a Drachmer gun turret, destroying both ships. They sacrificed themselves to protect others, just like Pipnox did for us. The young engineer had died trying to send the humans information. about Drachmer weaknesses. His sacrifice was now helping Earth's warriors fight more effectively. On the Drachmer mothership, Grixgon was beginning to panic. His fleet was 3 times larger than the human force, but somehow he was losing. Creatures from the primitive world called Earth fought like they had nothing to lose. "Sir, human soldiers have boarded the prison ship," an officer reported. "Impossible. How did they get past our shields?" "They flew their transport ship directly through our shield barrier during a weapons exchange. The pilot was killed, but the soldiers survived the crash and are now inside our ship." Colonel James River led his special forces through the corridors of the Drachmer prison ship. His soldiers moved like ghosts, their black armor making them nearly invisible in the dark passages. They had trained for this kind of mission in Earth's most dangerous places: deep caves, underwater caverns, and burning buildings. The Drachmer guards were tough warriors, but they had never fought enemies who could move so quietly and strike so quickly. River's team used weapons that fired tiny darts filled with sleeping medicine. The guards fell unconscious without even knowing they were under attack. "Team 2, secure the prison level," River whispered into his radio. "Team 3, find their computer center. We need to know how many more ships they have." Sergeant Emma Rodriguez reached the Velthari cells first. She used a small explosive device to melt the lock, then opened the door. "Are you the ones who sent the distress signal?" she asked in her basic translator voice. Captain Velmore stared at the human soldier. She was shorter than any Velthari, but her body looked incredibly strong. Her eyes were sharp and alert, like a predator watching for danger. "Yes, we sent the message," he said. "But how did you get here so fast? How did you fight through the Drachmar fleet?" Rodriguez helped him stand up. "Ma'am, we're from Earth. We don't leave people behind when they ask for help." As more human soldiers freed the other prisoners, the aliens got their first close look at Earth's people. They were amazed by human physical abilities. These soldiers had thick bones and powerful muscles. Their skin was tough, and they seemed to ignore injuries that would cripple other species. "Your people," Crintel said to Rodriguez. "You are built for war." "No, ma'am," the sergeant replied. "We're built for survival. Our planet tried to kill us every day for millions of years. This is just another day for us." The battle outside was turning in Earth's favor. The Drachmer fleet was retreating, their ships damaged and their crews demoralized. They had expected to fight peaceful explorers and weak Federation ships. Instead, they had met humanity, a species that treated impossible odds as just another challenge to overcome. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the Drachmer fleet retreat into the asteroid field. But her face showed no joy. Something was wrong. Enemies who ran away this easily usually had a trap waiting, Admiral reported. Commander Miller, we're detecting massive energy readings from the asteroid belt. The Drachmer ships are taking positions around what looks like hidden weapon platforms. Captain Velmore, now aboard the human flagship after his rescue, looked at the tactical display with growing fear. "Admiral Torres, you must retreat immediately." Warlord Grixgon is known for his traps. He lets enemies think they are winning, then destroys them all at once. Torres studied the alien captain. His people were peaceful, but they had been exploring space for thousands of years. Their intelligence was valuable. "What kind of trap?" she asked. Karin-Tell, standing beside her captain, pulled up data on her portable scanner. "Our science division has heard rumors about Drachmer quantum bombs. Weapons that can destroy everything in an entire star system." The bridge grew quiet. Even the experienced human officers looked worried. A weapon that could destroy a whole star system was beyond anything Earth had ever faced. "How many bombs?" Torres asked. "Unknown," Crintel replied. "But if the rumors are true, even one could kill billions of people on nearby planets." Torres walked to her command chair and sat down slowly. She had led Earth's fleets through many battles, but never against an enemy willing to commit genocide. She opened a communication channel to her entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Torres. We have a situation. The enemy has weapons that can destroy this entire system and possibly reach nearby inhabited worlds. They're trying to force us to retreat by threatening innocent lives. Captain Webb's voice came through from the Ragnarok.
Admiral.
Torres looked at the tactical display, showing the positions of her 12 ships against 3 Drachmer battle stations and dozens of hidden weapon platforms. Any reasonable military commander would retreat and call for reinforcements. "We're going to split our forces," she announced. "Webb, take the Ragnarok and half our fighters. Make a direct assault on their main battle station. Make them think we're desperate and stupid." Admiral Commander Miller whispered, "That's exactly what they expect us to do. It could be suicide." "That's the point," Torres replied with a cold smile. "Commander Park, take your stealth ships and circle around behind them. Find those quantum bombs and figure out how to disarm them." On her stealth frigate Shadow Dancer, Commander Lisa Park checked her ship's systems. Her vessels were designed to be invisible, but moving close to the enemy weapons would be incredibly dangerous. "All stealth units, follow my lead," she ordered. "Use the asteroid field for cover. These Drachmer don't know how good human pilots are in dangerous places." Meanwhile, Colonel River was preparing his special forces for another impossible mission. His soldiers had already proven they could board enemy ships, but this time they needed to infiltrate a heavily defended command center. "Listen up," River told his team. "We need to get inside that main battle station and find out how their quantum bombs work. This isn't just about winning a battle. If we fail, entire planets full of innocent people will die." Sergeant Rodriguez checked her equipment. "Sir, how do we get inside a battle station that's completely surrounded by weapons?" River pointed to the tactical display. "We're going to do what humans do best. Something so crazy that they'll never see it coming." The human plan began with Captain Webb's seemingly suicidal frontal assault. The Ragnarok led 6 fighters in a direct charge toward the main Drachmer battle station. To the enemy, it looked like desperate humans making their last stand. Grixgon watched from his command center, his red eyes glowing with satisfaction. "Foolish humans. They think they can defeat us with courage alone. Prepare the quantum bombs. When their ships get close enough, we'll activate all the weapons at once." But Webb's assault was just the first part of the human strategy. Rada's his ship took heavy fire from the Drachmer weapons. He used the explosions and energy discharges to hide what was really happening. Commander Park's stealth ships slipped through the asteroid field like ghosts. Her pilots had trained in the dangerous space around Earth's moon, dodging debris and radiation that would destroy most ships. Flying through an asteroid field was actually easier than their normal training exercises. "I'm detecting the quantum bombs," reported Lieutenant Dave Kim from his stealth scout. "They're hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids. There are at least 6 of them, maybe more." Park studied the readings on her scanner. These weapons are connected to a central control system. If we can find the main computer, we might be able to shut them all down. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the fleet's expert on alien technology, was working frantically in the Indomitable science lab. She had been studying captured Drachmer equipment, trying to understand how their technology worked. "Admiral," she reported through the communication system, "I think I've found something important. Drachmer computers are very different from ours. They use logic patterns that are completely predictable." "What does that mean?" Torres asked. "It means our chaotic human computer systems might be able to confuse their networks. If we can get close enough to connect to their main computer, we could overload it with random data." Tech specialist Andy Chen was listening to the conversation from his position in the computer center. "I can write a virus program that would drive their logical systems crazy. But someone would have to physically connect to their main computer core. That someone turned out to be Colonel River and his Special Forces team. While the space battle raged around them, they launched their assault shuttle directly toward the main battle station. "This is insane," muttered River's pilot as enemy fire exploded around them. "We're flying straight into the most heavily defended target in the system. Just get us close," River replied. "We'll handle the rest." The shuttle took hit after hit, its armor glowing red from the heat of enemy weapons. But human ships were built tough, designed to survive in the harsh environment around Earth. The shuttle crashed through the battle station's outer defenses and smashed into a docking bay. River and his team fought their way through corridors filled with Drachmer soldiers. The aliens were fierce warriors, but they had never faced enemies who could think and adapt as quickly as humans. Every time the Drachmer thought they had the humans trapped, River's team found a new way to attack. "Computer core is 3 levels down," reported Sergeant Rodriguez, checking her scanner, "but it's heavily guarded." "Then we make our own entrance," River said. He pulled out a small explosive device and attached it to the floor. "Stand back." The explosion opened a hole straight down through 3 levels of the battle station. River's team rappelled down through the smoke and debris, landing directly in the computer center. The Drachmer guards were so surprised by this impossible attack that River's team had subdued them before they could raise an alarm. Chen connected his portable computer to the alien system and began uploading his chaos virus. "It's working," he reported.
Ow.
"Their logical systems can't handle random human data. The quantum bomb network is shutting down." But just as victory seemed within reach, alarms began sounding throughout the battle station. Grixcon's voice echoed through the corridors. "Clever humans," he snarled. "You have disabled my quantum bombs. But I still have one more surprise for you." On the tactical display, new contacts appeared. Dozens of massive shapes were moving toward the battle from deep space. They were larger than anything the humans had ever seen, and they were heading straight for the human fleet. Admiral Torres stared at the tactical display as the massive shapes approached from deep space. Each one was the size of a small moon, moving with purpose toward the battle zone. Her experienced crew had gone silent, realizing they were facing something far beyond their understanding. Admiral Commander Miller reported with a shaky voice, "Those objects are not ships. They're something else entirely. Scanners can barely read them." Captain Velmore moved closer to the display, his blue face pale with terror. "Those are planet killers," he whispered. "Ancient weapons from the old wars. We thought they were just legends." Crintel was working frantically at her science station, trying to analyze the approaching objects. "Admiral Torres, these weapons are aimed at 2 different targets. Our computers show trajectory paths leading to Earth and to our homeworld, Velthar Prime." The bridge fell completely silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Grixcon had not just been planning to defeat the human fleet, he had been planning to destroy both civilizations completely. "How long until they reach their targets?" Torres asked, her voice steady despite the horror of the situation. 18 hours to Earth, Crintel calculated. 22 hours to Velthor Prime. Both planets have billions of inhabitants who cannot be evacuated in time. Torres looked at her small fleet on the tactical display. 12 ships against weapons that could destroy entire worlds. The mathematics were impossible, but she had not become admiral by accepting impossible situations. "Captain Webb," she called through the communication system. "Status report on the Ragnarok." Webb's voice came back strained and tired. "Hull breaches on multiple decks, Admiral. We've lost 30% of our fighters, and our main weapons are operating at 60% capacity, but we're still flying." "Good. I need you to do something that's going to sound insane, even for us." "I'm listening, Admiral." Torres took a deep breath. "I need you to intercept the planet killer heading for Earth. Use everything you have left to stop it." The communication channel was quiet for a long moment. Everyone knew what Torres was really asking. The Ragnarok would have to sacrifice itself to save Earth. "Understood, Admiral," Webb finally replied. "It's been an honor serving with you, Captain." Marcus Webb turned to his crew on the Ragnarok's bridge. Lieutenant Maria Santos, his chief engineer, was working to keep the damaged ship running. Commander Tom Harrison, his flight operations officer, was coordinating their remaining fighters. "You heard the Admiral," Webb said. "We have 18 hours to catch a planet killer and stop it. Anyone who wants to transfer to another ship can do so now." Nobody moved. Santos looked up from her engineering console. "Sir, with respect, where else would we go? Earth is our home. Our families are there." Harrison nodded in agreement. "Besides, Captain, someone has to teach these aliens what happens when they threaten humanity's homeworld." Meanwhile, Admiral Torres was facing an even more difficult decision. Her remaining ships were not powerful enough to stop the second planet killer. Heading for Velthor Prime, she needed help, and there was only one place to get it. "Open a channel to Warlord Grixcon," she ordered. Commander Miller looked shocked. "Admiral, he's our enemy." "Hey, why would he help us?" "Because," Torres replied, "I think there's something he hasn't told us about these planet killers." The main screen flickered, and Grixcon's scarred face appeared. His red eyes burned with hatred, but Torres also saw something else there. "Fear human Admiral," Grixcon growled. "You have defeated my fleet, but you cannot stop what is coming. The ancient weapons will destroy your worlds, and there is nothing you can do." "Maybe," Torres said calmly. "But I notice you look worried, Warlord. These planet killers will destroy everything in the system, including your ships." "Why would you activate weapons that will kill your own people?" Grixcon's expression changed. For a moment, the fierce warrior looked like a frightened, desperate leader. "You do not understand," he said quietly. "These weapons, ... they are not ours. We found them, but we cannot control them fully. Once activated, they will destroy everything organic in their path." Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who had been listening to the conversation, suddenly understood. "Admiral, he's not conquering for territory. He's running from something." Torres leaned forward. "What are you running from, Grixcon?" The Drakmar warlord was silent for a long moment. Then his proud warrior mask fell away completely. "The Devourers," he whispered. "Ancient machines that consume entire star systems. They have been hunting us across the galaxy for decades. We thought if we could gather enough ships, enough weapons, we could fight them. But they are too powerful." Corintel gasped from her science station. "The old stories from our archives. Machines that eat stars and turn planets into metal. We thought they were mythology. They're real," Grixcon continued. "And they are. Coming here. The planet killers were meant to be used against them, but the weapons are too dangerous. It will destroy everything, including the life we are trying to protect." Torres felt the weight of this revelation. The Drakmar were not evil conquerors. They were refugees fighting a desperate war against something even worse. "Can the planet killers be stopped?" she asked. "There is a way," Grixcon admitted. "But it requires someone to manually deactivate the core of each weapon. It is a suicide mission. The person doing it will be vaporized instantly." "Colonel Rivers?" Voice came through the communication system from the captured battle station. "Admiral, I volunteer. My team and I can reach the first planet killer." "Negative, Colonel," Torres replied. "I need you to help coordinate our defense. We're going to need every experienced soldier we have." Young Pipnox, who had been quietly listening to the conversation, suddenly stepped forward. The Valtheri engineer looked frightened but determined. "I will go," he said in his soft voice. "My people understand the technology better than humans. And, ... double quotes, he paused looking at his rescued crewmates. "Someone from my ship should make this sacrifice." Captain Velmore grabbed his young engineer's arm. "Pipnox, no, you are too valuable. Your knowledge could help us find another way." Captain Pipnox replied gently, "There is no other way. My knowledge is exactly why I must be the one to go." Dr. Mitchell was studying the technical data about the planet killers. "Admiral, there might be another option. We can modify our ship's computers to interface with the alien technology. We might be able to create a remote shutdown signal." Tech specialist Chen shook his head. "Doctor, the signal would have to be transmitted from extremely close range. Whatever ship carries the transmitter would be destroyed when the planet killer shuts down." Torres understood the situation clearly now. To save both Earth and Velthar Prime, 2 ships would have to sacrifice themselves. 2 crews would have to willingly fly into certain death. "Captain Webb is already heading for the Earthbound weapon," she said quietly. "I'll take the Indomitable after the one heading for Veltor Prime." "Admiral, no," Commander Miller protested. "You're the fleet commander. We need you alive." "The fleet needs Earth and its allies alive more," Torres replied. "Prepare the ship for one final mission." As the human and Valtheri crews prepared for their sacrificial missions, long-range sensors detected something new approaching the system.
Ow.
The signatures were unlike anything in their databases. Geometric shapes that seemed to bend space around them. The geometric shapes that appeared on the sensors were unlike anything the combined fleets had ever seen. They move through space by bending reality around them, turning the darkness between stars into twisted corridors of impossible angles. What are those things? Commander Miller asked, staring at the tactical display with wide eyes. Warlord Grixcon's face appeared on the communication screen. His red eyes filled with ancient terror. "The Devourers," he whispered. "They have found us again." Admiral Torres watched as the mechanical entities took formation at the edge of the system. Each ship was perfectly geometric triangles, cubes, and shapes that hurt to look at directly. They moved with cold precision, like pieces in a cosmic machine. "How do we fight them?" Torres asked. "You cannot," Grixcon replied. "My people have tried for 50 years. They consume entire star systems, turning planets into raw materials for more ships. They learn from every battle, adapting to become stronger." Dr. Sarah Mitchell was scanning the approaching fleet from her science station. "Admiral, these readings are incredible. The Devourer ships appear to be completely logical constructs. They operate on pure mathematical principles, with no random elements at all." Crintel looked up from her own scanner. "Dr. Mitchell is correct. Their technology follows perfect patterns. Every movement, every decision is calculated for maximum efficiency." Cold realization began to form in Torres's mind. "Perfect logic," she murmured. "No chaos, no randomness, no organic unpredictability." Captain Webb's voice crackled through the communication system from the Ragnarok. "Admiral, I'm in position near the planet killer, heading for Earth, waiting for your orders." Torres made a decision that would change the fate of 3 civilizations. "Captain Webb, hold your position. All ships, stand down from the suicide missions." "Admiral," Commander Miller looked confused. "The planet killers are still active. They'll reach their targets in hours." "I have a different plan," Torres announced. "One that might save everyone and stop the Devourers permanently. A channel to all ships, human, Drachmer, and the rescued prisoners from dozens of species. Listen carefully. The Devourers are machines that think in perfect logic. They can predict and counter any logical military strategy. But they've never faced something they can't predict." Young Pipnox, still standing beside the communication console, understood first. "Chaos," he said softly. "They cannot understand organic chaos." "Exactly," Torres confirmed. "We're going to give them something their perfect minds cannot process. A completely illogical alliance between species that should be enemies, using tactics that make no mathematical sense." Grixcon's scarred face showed doubt. "Human Admiral, my warriors have been your enemies. Why would you trust us in battle?" "Because," Torres replied, "your people are survivors. You've been fighting the Devourers longer than anyone. We need that experience." Captain Velmore spoke up from his position near the science station. "Admiral Torres, the Velthari, had never engaged in warfare. We do not know how to fight." "But you know how to build things," Torres said with a smile. "And right now, we need to build something the Devourers have never seen before." The next few hours saw the most unlikely alliance in galactic history. Human engineers worked alongside Drachmer weapon specialists and Velthari scientists to modify their ships. They combined human chaos theory with Velthari, advanced technology, and Drachmer, battle experience. Tech specialist. Chen found himself working next to a massive Drachmer warrior named Brockdor, who had been fighting machines for decades. "Your people," Brockdor said in broken standard, "you think differently than others. Machines cannot predict your madness." "We're not mad," Chen replied, connecting a human computer to a Drachmer weapon system. "We're just used to things trying to kill us every day." Dr. Mitchell was collaborating with Crintel to create a new type of virus, one that would introduce organic randomness into the Devourer's perfect logical systems. "If we can inject enough chaos into their network," Mitchell explained, "their own efficiency will work against them." Meanwhile, Colonel River was training mixed teams of human, Drachmer, and even some brave Velthari volunteers for boarding actions against the geometric ships. "Remember," he told the diverse group, "machines expect logical tactics. So we're going to do everything wrong, and that's going to make it right." The Devourer fleet had been analyzing the situation for hours. their perfect minds calculating millions of possible battle scenarios. But when the Organic Alliance finally attacked, they encountered something their logic could not process. Captain Webb led the first wave. But instead of the organized formation the Devourers expected, his ships flew in patterns that seemed completely random. Human fighters spiraled through space, while Drachmer heavy cruisers charged straight ahead. And Velthari science ships darted between them, broadcasting confusing signals. "Their targeting systems are struggling," reported Lieutenant Santos from the Ragnarok. "They keep trying to predict our next move, but we're not following any pattern they can understand." The Devourers attempted to adapt, but every time they calculated a response to the chaotic tactics, the Organic Alliance changed to something even more unpredictable. Grixcon's warriors fought alongside human soldiers they had been trying to kill hours earlier. Velthari engineers jury-rigged weapon systems that should never have worked but somehow did. Commander Park's stealth ships slipped through the geometric formation and began boarding the Devourer vessels. Inside the mechanical ships, River's mixed teams found corridors of perfect metal and crystal. Maintained by robot servants that had never encountered organic unpredictability. "Plant the virus transmitters," River ordered his teams. "Remember, don't follow the logical path through the ship. Take every wrong turn you can think of." The Chaos virus, when it finally spread through the Devourer network, had an effect that even Dr. Mitchell had not predicted. The machines, faced with truly random data for the first time in their existence, began to question their own perfect logic. One by one, the geometric ships stopped moving. Their perfect formations broke apart as individual vessels began to behave in ways that defied their programming. Some ships turned and fled into deep space. Others simply shut down, their crews unable to process the contradiction between logic and chaos. But the real victory came when the Planet Killers, still connected to the Devourer network, began receiving the Chaos virus through their quantum links. The ancient weapons, designed to follow logical targeting protocols, found their systems overloaded with random human data. "The Planet Killers are powering down," Crintel reported with amazement. "The Chaos virus is spreading through all their connected systems." Admiral Torres watched as the last of the Devourer fleet retreated into the darkness between stars. For the first time in 50 years, they had been defeated not by superior firepower or better tactics, but by something they could never understand or replicate. In the aftermath of the battle, representatives from dozens of species gathered aboard the Indomitable. The Galactic Federation had arrived with a massive fleet, but the fighting was already over. Federation Admiral Quexnam, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, looked at the mixed crews of humans, Drachmer and Velthari working together. "This alliance," he said slowly, "it should not be possible. Your species are too different." "That's exactly why it works," Torres replied. "Diversity makes us stronger." The Devourers were perfect, but perfection made them weak against chaos. Grixcon, his armor now bearing human and Velthari symbols alongside his own, nodded in agreement. "My people were wrong to seek conquest. We should have sought allies instead." Captain Velmore smiled at his young engineer Pipnox, who had survived the battle and learned that sometimes peace required the willingness to fight for it. "Perhaps," the captain said, "we Velthari need to learn that there is more to life than pure logic." As the combined fleets prepared to return to their home systems, Torres stood on her bridge looking out at the stars. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as conquerors or subjects, but as the guardians who stood ready to face the chaos that others could not handle. The universe was a dangerous place, but it was also full of friends worth fighting for.